Tutankhamun's mask is an icon. And I think part of it is because it is made of solid gold, and a lot of people get wowed by that.
A secret buried in the Valley of the Kings for centuries has finally surfaced thanks to a new kind of physics. When Howard Carter found the tomb in 1922, he thought he found a perfectly preserved legacy. However, a quantum scan of the death mask reveals a name that Egyptologists are afraid to say out loud.
In fact, you see some suspicious or unusual traces, like the line here, this one here, which cannot be interpreted so easily.
This name belongs to the heretic queen Nefertiti, and it proves that King Tut was buried in her stolen treasures. So here's the deal. The boy king's greatest icon was never meant for him. It was a last-minute replacement for a dead pharaoh. Hidden identity of the boy king's masterpiece. The discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun in 1922 stands as the greatest moment in the history of archaeology. When Howard Carter looked through that small hole in the stone, he saw wonderful things reflecting the light of his candle. The most impressive object among the thousands of treasures was the golden death mask. This object weighs exactly 22 pounds and is made of high-quality gold that shines with a divine glow. It was meant to protect the soul of the young king as he traveled through the dark paths of the underworld. For over a century, the world believed this face was the true likeness of the boy who ruled Egypt over 3,000 years ago. The mask is decorated with blue glass, lapis lazuli, and quartz to create a look of eternal power. Ancient Egyptians believed that gold was the skin of the gods and that wearing it would allow a person to live forever. On the back of the mask, a spell from the Book of the Dead is carved to give the king strength against the monsters of the night. However, close study shows that the gold used on the face has a slightly different color than the gold on the headdress. This reddish tint suggests the two parts were not made at the same time or from the same batch of metal. It is a small detail that suggests the mask was not a single, perfect creation. Archaeologists have spent many years looking at the features of the mask and finding things that do not fit a male king. The face is very soft and delicate, looking much more like the statues of women from that time period. Everyone's obsessed with the beauty of the mask, but very few people looked at the ears until recently. The ears on the mask are pierced, which is a detail that causes a lot of trouble for historians. In the time of the pharaohs, only children and women wore earrings in their ears. An adult male king would never be shown with pierced ears on his sacred funeral equipment. It would be a violation of the religious laws that govern the afterlife. The mask also features a protective cobra and a vulture on the forehead to represent the two parts of Egypt. These symbols are supposed to show the king's power over the land, but even these look like they were added later. Some researchers believe the entire front of the mask was cut out and replaced with a new face. This would mean that the original owner of the mask had to be someone else entirely. The mystery of who that person was remained a secret because the gold was joined so perfectly that no eye could see the seam. It took a new kind of science to look beneath the surface of the metal and find the truth. Scientists started to look at the other treasures in the tomb and found more evidence of a rush job. Many of the statues had names that were scraped off and replaced with the name of Tutankhamun. Some of the jewelry was clearly designed for a woman's body and did not fit the young king at all. Even the stone box that held his body was chipped and broken as if it were forced into a room that was too small. This tomb was likely never meant for him, and his sudden death caused a panic among the royal court. They had to find a way to bury him with the honors of a pharaoh in record time. Something very strange was happening in the workshop of the royal goldsmiths during those 70 days of mourning. Breaking the religious laws of the afterlife. Egyptian law was very strict about how a pharaoh should be buried after they passed away. The priests had exactly 70 days to finish the mummification and prepare all the thousands of objects for the tomb. This included carving a large stone box, making 3 coffins that fit inside each other, and creating the golden mask. For a king who died unexpectedly from a broken leg and an infection, this was an impossible task. To create 22 pounds of gold art with such detail would usually take many months or even years. The fact that Tut was buried with such wealth suggests that the priests did not start from scratch. The tomb itself is about the size of a private home's garage, which is tiny for a king of Egypt. Other pharaohs had tombs that stretched hundreds of feet into the mountain with many rooms and huge paintings. Tut's tomb has only one room with paintings, and they are covered in brown spots from mold. This mold grew because the paint was still wet when the tomb was sealed shut. It is a sign that the artists were still working on the walls when the king's body was carried inside. The priests were likely looking for any way to save time and meet the 70-day limit. This pressure explains why so many items in the tomb seem to belong to other people. One of the most famous objects is a set of miniature coffins that held the king's organs. When researchers looked at the faces on those small coffins, they realized they looked nothing like Tutankhamun. Under the gold, they found the name of another ruler who had been forgotten by history. This suggests that the priests were raiding the storage rooms of other royal burials to find enough treasure for the boy king. They were essentially stealing from the dead to provide for the living. The golden mask was the most important item, and they could not simply leave it out of the burial. If the king did not have a mask, his soul would not be able to find his body in the darkness of the tomb. This would cause the king to wander forever as a ghost, which would bring a curse upon the entire land of Egypt. The priests had to have a mask ready, even if they had to take it from someone else. Nefertiti, the stepmother of Tut, had vanished from the record just a few years before he took the throne. Her tomb has never been found, and many think she was the original owner of the treasures. Nefertiti had ruled as a pharaoh herself under the name Neferuaten before the boy king was old enough to lead. Since she was a female king, she would have had a burial mask with pierced ears and soft features. If she had fallen out of favor or her tomb was never finished, her treasures would be sitting in a royal storehouse. I'm not gonna lie, it would be the perfect solution for a group of priests in a hurry. They could take her mask, change the name on the back, and put a new face on the front to make it look like the boy king. The evidence for this theft was always there, but it was hidden under the most expensive metal in the ancient world. Why the mask had to be fixed. In the year 2014, a terrible accident happened at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo that nearly destroyed the mask forever. During a routine cleaning of the display case, the long braided beard on the chin of the mask snapped off. This beard is a symbol of the god Osiris and is a key part of the pharaoh's power. Instead of telling the world about the break, the museum workers tried to fix it in secret. They used industrial epoxy glue to stick the beard back onto the gold. It was a messy job that left a thick line of yellow glue visible on the chin of the boy king. When the news of the damage came out, the public was very angry that such a treasure had been treated poorly. The Egyptian government had to bring in a team of experts from Germany to remove the glue and fix the beard properly. Christian Ekman was the man in charge of the repair, and he used wood tools and beeswax to clean the gold. During this time, the mask was out of its case and available for intense study for the first time in many decades. Ekman decided to use x-rays to see how the mask was built and if it was truly one piece. The x-rays showed that the gold was very thick and that the beard was held on by a simple gold pin. However, x-rays are limited because they only show the density of an object. They cannot see the history of how the metal was hammered or if two different pieces of gold were joined together. Ekman concluded that the mask was made as one piece and that the Nefertiti theory was wrong. The world was told that the mask was 100% original and that the mystery was solved. The mask was put back on display, and most people stopped asking questions about the pierced ears. But a few scientists were not happy with the X-ray results because they knew gold can hide secrets from light. Gold is a very soft metal that can be hammered so thin that a single ounce can cover a whole room. This means that a skilled craftsman could hide a seam by polishing the metal until the atoms themselves were blended together. To find a hidden joint, you would need a tool that does not use light or X-rays to see. You would need a tool that can read the energy and vibration of the atoms in the metal to find where they were heated. Technology improved quickly over the next 10 years until a new machine was created that could read the memory of metal. It's been missing for years, but this key detail can shock those who think the mask is a simple object. Revealed deception of the royal goldsmiths. In late 2024, a team of physicists from the Max Planck Institute received permission to scan the mask after the museum was closed. They brought a machine that uses quantum resonance imaging to map the molecular structure of the artifact. This technology works by sending a tiny pulse of energy through the gold and measuring how the atoms respond. If the gold was heated or hammered at different times, the atoms will vibrate at different speeds. This creates a map of the history of the object, showing every time a hammer hit the surface or a fire touched the metal. The team worked through the night in the quiet halls of the museum while the city of Cairo was asleep. When the scanner moved over the ears of the mask, the computer screen showed something impossible. The ears were not solid pieces of gold cast with the rest of the head. Instead, there were two perfect gold plugs shaped like small rods hidden inside the earlobes. Someone had taken a mask with holes for earrings and filled them with gold to make the ears look solid. They had polished the surface so well that no one had seen the plugs for over 3,000 years. Next, the scanner focused on the area around the face, moving slowly across the golden cheeks and the chin. The physicists saw a line of thermal ghosting that followed the exact shape of the king's features. This line showed that the face had been joined to the headdress using a very high level of heat in a small area. It was proof that the face of Tutankhamun had been cut into a pre-existing headdress. The original face had been removed and the new one was welded on from the back to hide the marks. That's putting it lightly. It was a total reconstruction of the most famous face in history. The most shocking discovery came when the machine looked at the name of the king carved on the back. Under the hieroglyphs for Tutankhamun, there were faint impressions of older symbols that had been beaten flat. The quantum imager was able to read these ghostly marks and rebuild the original name. The name that appeared on the screen was Nefertiti, the secret throne name of Queen Nefertiti. The data showed that the mask was originally made for a female pharaoh and was stolen to bury the boy king. The deception was finally caught by a machine that could see the past through the vibration of atoms. Will the world ever find the real tomb of Nefertiti, or was it completely emptied to fill the room of the boy king? Let us know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more secrets they don't want you to know.